Okay, so I'm gonna go and sing the praises of the ant. You so quickly dismissed the army ant. So these are the ants. If you ever watched the Discovery Channel or the Nature Channel or whatever, that like to build the bridges and like floating like boats of ants to get across terrain. So they are nomadic. So their whole hive moves, and basically they just stop every once in a while and like build a ant dome around their queen and larva, and then it's like the next day they keep going because the ant colony is so big and they need so much food that they actually have to like keep moving to like have new things to hunt. So they're pretty cool. But what's I think interesting about them and where they are going to be useful when you can train them is that they're very good at certain types of like problem solving with how they build their bridges and how they do scouting. So when they encounter an obstacle, they will build the bridge at like a convenient point and then move the bridge to optimize the amount of ants in the bridge versus how much distance they're saving.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the way that works is this. So what makes it pretty even more interesting, I'm going to keep using that word, but is that they don't know, there's no leader ant telling them what to do. So each ant only has the information that it itself has. So the way they do these structures is they only follow two rules. One, if they feel an ant walk across their back, they stop. And two, if they're stopped and they don't feel a certain number of ants crossing their back, like, per second or, per some amount of time, they'll let go and continue the march. So they all have like a notion of where to march to, but the structures are completely circumstantial based on just these two rules. So basically what happens is you have this whole horde of ants moving, and one ant gets to a ledge, and he's like, oh, I have to stop. Then the ant behind him is like still moving, and so ends up walking on top of him, and he's like, oh, now I have to stop, but he's like slightly more forward. And so like this pile of ant forms at the ledge, and eventually one ant makes it to the other side, and then that ant, ants will continue over him, and they like make this natural bridge going around. So what it does is it kind of solves the traveling salesman problem. So this is kind of like a famous puzzle for computers where you have a salesman, he has all these deliveries to make to all these different cities. All the cities are only open during certain times, and the question is, what's the most efficient route for him to take to, be the best salesman? And so it's like very complicated variables, so many options, like it's basically just like computers iterate on it a whole bunch. But the ants are actually naturally suited the way they work to actually just solve this just kind of brute force by having a bunch of ants attack it. And where this traveling salesman problem is useful is in city planning. So it's kind of like traffic. So if you want to get a bunch of people that are trying to go different places and you want to get them there efficiently, if you could build a scale model of this for ants and then put the ants in, you could see where they build the bridges to find out where you would need to build a real life bridge for the people.
Interesting.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, and what's kind of cool about that is that you don't even really need to have this perfectly controlled ants ability. Ants could just do this already.
Right, yeah.
Why aren't we doing this now?
I wonder if maybe like they actually are kind of slow, or you can't get the ants to, have the right goals. Like if you can control the ants, what you get is you can be like, I want this section of this many ants to want to go to this side, and I want this many ants to want to do this. And so you could give them new inputs so they can use their problem-solving abilities to go do all these different things.
You give them just the goals and then let them figure out the best solution. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. And so another thing I looked at is, so all these ants are building bridges and all these boats and stuff to help their ant people across. I'm like, could you scale this up? Could you make an actual full-size bridge out of ants? And so I was looking it up, and like the very first thing I found was this video of like this big mess of ants, like, maybe like 50 ants over a small gap. And this guy put like this little bit of force like at the middle of the bridge, and it just like fucking disintegrated. Because it turns out
no.
Yeah, so one side instinct they have, like when they're in this bridge form, is that if the bridge gets too heavy, they think there's too many ants on the bridge. So their instinct is to move ants away from the center of the bridge, which, if you know anything about bridge support, is where you need the ants to keep the bridge steady.
Right.
So basically what you would have is if you had an ant bridge that was strong enough to hold a car, say, the car would go over and get to the middle of the bridge, and then you would just slowly watch the whole bridge just dissolve and slowly move away from the center and dump the car into the river.
I was looking forward to hearing how many ants you would need to build a whole bridge, but you probably didn't go that deep if you found out it wouldn't work this early.
Yeah, it was like comical how little support the bridge had. So I was like, oh. So if you actually did it, you would need just like, I don't know, so many ants. You'd probably have to just fill the river with ants.
Right, yeah, I was going to say, you're just making a dam for the river out of ants and just driving across it.
There are a lot of ants in the world, so you probably have enough.
This is true.
Yeah, you would. I mean, you have about the same amount of biomass of people as ants, so if you can make a dam out of people, you can make a dam out of ants. I don't know why I made that analogy. You don't make dams out of people, but
I mean, maybe you don't.